From the heart of Central Florida, you're listening to the most electrifying show in media. A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gornosky. So glad to be with you again for our second hour of today's broadcast. Soaring high to new heights, learning, growing together. Working together to solve problems neighbor to neighbor. We're not going to rely on tribalism. We're going to do our best to check our biases and be honest about them. Be honest about the intoxicating magnetic pull of going along to get along just to have power. Power is not what we're interested in. We're interested in the truth. And that means sometimes it's going to cut in multiple directions at the same time. And if you're listening on radio right now, make sure you set it for this station because you don't want to miss what we do each and every day here on FM and AM. And if you're listening on podcasts, make sure you subscribe if you enjoy the program and share it with your friends, share it with your family. Let them know that this is a new media conversation that is based on dealing with real issues at the neighborly level, at the local level, and really breaking it down for folks. And joining me now is someone who's in D.C. He is the senior reporter at the American Conservative magazine. He covers foreign policy in the 2020 election. Curt Mills. How you doing, Curt?
Hey, good to hear from you.
Great to have you on the program. Yeah.
Since I last saw you.
Yeah. It's been a little bit of time, but I think you've survived so far. You've had a lot of wild things going over in D.C., right? How's it going over there?
No. Well, I guess I'm talking to the only person who has worse weather.
Oh, yeah.
Like 100 degrees. What is it there?
It's probably, let's see, humidity is at 52%, and the temperature is 76 degrees. Not too bad. Well, it's probably just because I'm under a shade tree.
Humidity and 100%, 100 degrees here. So never mind. I've got the greater burden to shoulder on this front. But other than that, it's certainly less depressing here than it was 6 weeks ago.
So are you guys able to come out of the house yet, or how's that going?
Well, I mean, for anyone who's unfamiliar, so DC is this labyrinth between the federal government, the local government of the District of Columbia, and then a lot of people live in the Virginia and Maryland suburbs. So I live in DC proper, but I kind of bounce around all areas. So pretty much everyone's got a mask on. And you can go out to restaurants outside. There are a few people that are doing it inside. So it's liberalized in that sense since Memorial Day. But the thing that happened after Memorial Day is that we had, very severe rioting at a certain point, and the protests are now an omnipresent presence in the summer. So it's heated in all senses.
Yeah. Now, is there a new call in the local media to shut down everything again? Because that's what's happening here in Florida. We're getting a lot of people that want to close Disney World, lock everybody up, shut it all down.
Yeah, I think Washington and DC in this sense was it was in a medium that was spared some of the more extreme responses. So if you look at it, like Texas, Florida, Georgia had Republican governors that were more open to opening up the economy quicker, and then got slammed by the media for it. Versus California never really opened up in any meaningful way, especially in the north. I think DC is kind of like not as liberal as California per se, and it never opened up as much as Florida or Texas.
Mm-hmm. And what about Northern Virginia? I saw you on Twitter here. You posted a picture that it sure has changed over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
2000, it shows that the presidential election, Bush won 45.9% of Northern Virginia. Yeah. And now in 2016, Trump had or the latest one with Trump was 29.6% for him in Northern Virginia. What's going on in the Northern Virginia area? What's happening?
Sure. Just to again context, my family on my dad's side is originally from Virginia for way back, we traced to the 1700s. But I was actually born in Maryland, and then we moved into Northern Virginia when I was a teenager. And I remember when I moved to Virginia, I thought it was, it wasn't Mississippi, but it was a clearly sort of southern, mid-South Republican state. Bush was pretty popular. This is 2004. President Bush was pretty popular. I think he actually lost Fairfax County, which is the central county in Northern Virginia, but it was close. And, the sort of transformation over the last 16 years has been a sight to behold. I mean, so Virginia is about 8.2 million people in the north, depending on how you cut it. Most people cut it as north of the Rappahannock River in Fredericksburg. It's half the state and more of its money. And, I think Obama style of politics was pretty, conducive to a strong Democratic showing. And he took Virginia from the Republicans in 2008. And then he won it again in 2012, though Romney really did try to win Virginia particularly. He announced Paul Ryan as his VP in Virginia on the battleship in Norfolk. And then, Trump's brand of politics, I think does well in parts of the state. Like, you go out to Southwest Virginia, which is, in a lot of ways my favorite part of the state. It's just the mountain part. And it's pretty clearly Trump country. And I like it because of the scenic. I try to stay out of the politics of it, but I think though, it's just overwhelmed by the more liberal North, which has a lot of out-of-state transplants, and it's kind of on the government teat, which is definitely a factor.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're basically in the belly of the beast, as we say, and I wanted to get your take on how you see the lay of the land in the 2020 election so far with Biden versus Trump. What are the themes emerging? What's the atmosphere in the DC world? And just give us a snapshot of what's happening.
Well, I'll try to provide information that you might already know. Look, to an extent, it's limited, though. I think the mood has certainly turned. Not that DC has a monopoly on what the country is going to do, because they thought Hillary Clinton was going to be, the president in 2016. That did not happen. But the mood is almost eerily certain that Biden is going to take this in November. And I think Biden is likely to take it in November as well. But it is a sort of interesting. I think everyone's kind of superstitious because of the repeat nature of the certitude that people are feeling. So I think in the campaign, look, I was going to dedicate this year to traveling, seeing the country and following the campaign. And, now it's like, we don't even know if we're going to have in-person conventions that are worth going to in any serious way. And Biden clearly is just fine with appearing once per week, keeping a low profile, running his podcast that few listen to, and letting Trump just keep, doling out ropes so he can hang himself. That's the basic contours of it. I think Trump, would like a stronger economic recovery, and that would be very contingent on his ability to win again. I think that seems currently unlikely, especially, say what you will of the efficacy in the program in the long run. He needs Congress to dole out more money in order to help him in the short run. I think, we continue to not know everything about it. I think in 2012, especially when, Nate Silver kind of pretty much called the election, polling and data seemed polling data and politics seemed approaching something close to a science. And I think, obviously in 2016 with just the real systemic polling failure in the Midwest, which is what Trump needed to win, I think that has everyone a little bit more suspicious of all of this data. So Trump's a clear underdog, but we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, and he certainly, from a visual standpoint, has lost his ability to run those live events, which is kind of his signature. It's kind of hard for Trump to be Trump if he doesn't have the circus-like electricity of live events every day that he could just keep going around the country. How can he possibly do what Trump does if he doesn't have that this fall?
Yeah, and I think Tulsa, had a chilling effect on it. One, just the original day they were going to do the Tulsa rally was, I believe, on June 19th, which is now kind of getting made a national holiday of sorts, or just officially a national holiday. And then additionally, he did it, in Tulsa, which had that sort of famous race riot, 100 years ago, which is just not a good image for the president to convey. And then when he actually did it, the campaign attendance the rally attendance was paltry by Trumpian standards. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, part of politics is expectation. So Trump still gets a crowd, and plenty of people are willing to risk their health to go to these rallies. Plenty of people are willing to risk their health. It seems even more willing to risk their health to go to these protests. But Trump has now set this expectation of these mammoth, massive rallies. And I was actually sort of revisiting some literature and some talks on the 2016 election over the weekend. And I heard this, I don't think it was that associated with the campaign, but an early advisor to Trump was talking about Trump tried to do a private event in New Hampshire during the 2015-2016 primary, and they basically just couldn't do private fundraisers or small fundraisers at people's houses because the thing, 500 people will come to this thing and the place was absolutely destroyed. Like that was the kind of buzz that Trump had in 2016, and I think these things have changed as it's gone on. I think the buzz in the primary at a Trump rally was way less traditionally Republican, way more just kind of a motley crew. It really felt if you were seen as anti-Trump, you could get roughed up. I mean, not like seriously, but I mean it felt like a little bit like a biker convention. And as it's gone on, as he's an incumbent president, has become sort of more traditionally Republican, and now just the overlaid health aspect and the impression that he is going to lose. I think, and also that Biden is not doing rallies at all. All of that is depressing turnout for him at these rallies, which is demoralizing him personally because he lost his crowd.
Right. We're speaking with Curt Mills of the American Conservative magazine. He's a senior reporter there. When we continue, we're going to get into what are the big themes at play here. How can Trump make a comeback for those who are interested in this race? And then also, if he does lose, what does a post-Trump conservative world look like in the Republican Party? We'll try to get through all that in just a moment, live on A Neighbor's Choice.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Windshields are all about safety, and Auto Glass America continues to insure yours. Now that we're into phase 2 and more businesses are reopening, we'd like to remind you that if your windshield is damaged and you have qualifying insurance, we'll install a premium quality replacement with a lifetime warranty at no cost to you. Either at home or back at work, we'll come to you with free mobile service and maintain CDC guidelines for social distancing. Plus, you'll get up to $150 cash back for your windshield. 813-96-GLASS. That's 813-96-GLASS.
And now, Easy Lift Movers is on the air, reminding all Americans to show support to the brave men and women of our U.S. military. Their bravery and tireless efforts should never go unnoticed. This salute is brought to you by Easy Lift Movers, serving the community with quality and pride. Call the pros today, 813-505-8474. That's 813-505-8474. Also, all troops and veterans will receive a 10% discount. That's Easy Lift Movers, proudly saluting our troops and veterans. They are professionals who care.
JP here for Italiano Insurance. One of the great things about visiting Italiano Insurance and talking to the staff, I always learn things that I didn't know, like this one. Sudden accidental water damage is the #1 claim in Florida. Italiano had one claim last year where $200,000 due to a pinhole in a water line in a dishwasher. It can happen to you. It's the #1 claim in Florida. Some policies exclude or limit the damage caused by these items. You got to have an informed agent that'll make sure that doesn't happen to you. Price is not the most important factor in choosing your insurance. You got to make sure you get replacement value, not actual value, on your items. All these type of tidbits are things you're going to learn from the great folks at Italiano Insurance and can save you tens of thousands of dollars if something were to happen. So give them a call at 813-877-7799 or go to ItalianoInsurance.com. Doing business in your neighborhood for over 60 years. ItalianoInsurance.com.
Neighbor's Choice returns. I'm David Gronowski, your host. You're listening on our flagship station, News Radio WFLA Orlando, 93.1, or maybe 94.1 if you're in northern Central Florida, or 540 AM across Central Florida. We're happy to have you. Or if you're listening on our Tampa Bay station, 1040 AM, WHBO, happy to have you as well, or live stream on YouTube or Facebook, or a podcast. We welcome you as well. Make sure you share, review, and pass it along if you're enjoying the conversations we're having here, as that's how we get the word out about this growing media journey we're on together. And I'm here with Curt Mills, who's a senior reporter at the American Conservative magazine. He covers the 2020 election. So, Curt, being in the D.C. area, what do you think are the themes that are emerging here? Why is it that Trump is seemingly losing his energy? We've talked about the fact that there's no rally. That's an obvious one. You can't go and do big rallies. Is it the corona response? The folks just think he just bungled that?
Yeah, I think it's complex. I think the first thing I would say is that I think that most people underestimated how viable a candidate Biden was generally, even if none of this was happening. So last year, polls showed that internal polls on the Trump campaign showed that Biden was winning, and if he became the nominee, and he was potentially going to win handily. And Trump fired his pollsters and didn't believe it. And when the polls reported something around the same level of a matchup this spring, he started to panic and believe it. Obviously, the world has completely changed since March. It's obviously changed on two axes: one, coronavirus, and then the subsequent and obviously related axis of racial unrest that's been brought to the fore, also mixed with the arguably a depression level economy. But Biden was always a bad matchup for Trump, and I can go into why. First of all, Biden was underrated as somebody who could unify a sort of balkanized Democratic Party. I think that a lot of this is not necessarily because of his skill as a politician, although I do think he is fairly skilled as a politician. But I think if you think about it like this, the socialist wing of their party thinks that he'll just be gone in 2024, and so they're more comfortable with him as a placeholder. He's clearly shown major loyalty on the part of the African American base of the Democratic Party, and additionally, corporate America and is comfortable with him, as is organized labor, as are a lot of independents who would give Biden a look where they didn't give Clinton a look. And that's a problem for Trump, because you have to remember that there were a considerable number of voters in key states that voted for Obama Biden twice, flipped to Trump, and gave the Republicans power. And they could very well be poised to flip back. And I think that the Trump campaign, with the sort of obsession with Hunter Biden, with, sort of inconsistently and incoherently going after his record on the crime bill, just thought that the Democrats' brand was bad, that they could tar any establishment Democrat as a Hillary rerun. And that's just not the case. And so their strategy was wrong, and their interpretation of the race was incorrect, and now they're starting on their back foot. Versus, I think, in 2016 and 2015, Trump understood something about the American electorate and what was going on that the establishment didn't get. And that was sort of his killer app, and that was his advantage. So in some ways, the surprise has been on Trump's end, and that's obviously not great news for him.
And you'd think, though, that the China connection to this virus, in terms of them not allowing the public to know what was going on while people were traveling to and fro around the world, would play to Trump's advantage. But it seems like Trump can't seem to get the narrative back in his favor, try what he might. I saw the ad that he was running where he was saying it was showing fire and vandalism. And and they said, this is Biden's America. I was like, well, that's Trump's America. That's a very poor ad, very dumb ad to do that,
So I think I couldn't agree more, Dave. I think it's two things. There was a viewpoint that, like, the rioting and the protests and the unrest in the cities and the sort of decline of the cities vis-a-vis with the coronavirus would somehow aid Trump. And I really rejected this narrative when it first started percolating in May or June. If you are unhappy with this in America, Donald Trump's the president now. And so while I'm sure there'll be voters that are fearful and will vote for Biden because they view him as a sort of a far left Armageddon figure, the fact is that's just not that's what the polling shows. That's not what the data shows. That also just doesn't make very much sense. If you think this is bad right now, why not go for a change? And then secondly, you are right. It was sort of a golden opportunity because in a lot of ways the crisis has vindicated a sort of nationalist interpretation of what's going on. The U.S. is too integrated with China. China is pretty dangerous. And the world is deglobalizing, and the U.S. needs to be clear-eyed about that. But Trump's messaging has been all over the place, frankly, because I think he sort of was really wedded to that trade deal that they did in January, so-called Phase 1, which is just I viewed as a mistake politically, but also geopolitically. He has he also was very keen to reach out to the African American community before the death of George Floyd and the subsequent events there. And so he is doing this weird thing where he criticizes Biden as the author of the crime bill, while also claiming to be the law and order candidate.
Yeah, we're out of time, Curt.
The matter is,
that's a great point there. That's a mixed message. Doesn't make sense. We'll have you back on. Curt Mills, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, David.
Ronald Reagan will turn over in his grave if he saw what's going on today.
Crazy things are happening.
You cannot be afraid. You've got to stand up for what you believe is right.
But one thing is for sure.
You can't trust anybody.
For talk, news, and information, you can count on us.
Enough is enough. I mean, I almost blew a gasket.
Good for the country.
I know what I'm talking about. A lot of wackos out there.
Your connection to talk about it. The all-new News Talk 1040 WHB.
President Trump says he's bringing White House COVID-19 briefings back.
I was doing them, and we had a lot of people watching, record numbers watching. In the history of cable television, there's never been anything like it.
Hospitalizations are up in 39 states, including California. Governor Gavin Newsom is urging residents to social distance and to wear face coverings.
Hospitalizations and ICUs continue to be a cause of concern in this state.
But 13 states say their positivity rates are going down. Authorities in New Jersey say a suspect accused accused of shooting two relatives of a federal judge was a New York City lawyer and a self-described anti-feminist. Roy Den Hollander was discovered in the Catskills of an apparently self-inflicted gunshot wound. That's 2 hours north of where he allegedly shot and killed the college-age son of Judge Esther Salas and shot and wounded her husband. Workers across the nation rallied today, calling for an end to racism and an end to economic inequality. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
Hello, David Gornosky here. Happy to be with you. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm looking at the OrlandoSentinel.com, the website. And first story is shame on you, DeSantis. Protesters shout at the governor during Orlando coronavirus update. There's a small group of protesters tried to shut down Governor Ron DeSantis Monday during an event in Orlando, the second such outburst in as many weeks as the governor tries to tout his efforts to combat the coronavirus pandemic amid alarming increases in cases, hospitalizations, and death. So you see how the media, every newspaper you turn to, sounds like a press release for the Democratic Party. I mean, you just can't escape it. It's just a constant gaslighting, and I'm not for the Republican Party, so it's kind of a interesting, angle for me because I don't have a dog in the fight between the two parties. But any neutral observer can see that these newspapers have dropped the pretense of trying to show any kind of objective reporting and use sensationalism in the aid of one particular party. That's like having a referee interfere on the field. It's like having a referee interfere on the field on behalf of one of the teams. That's not something that's sustainable for a democracy or a republic, if that's what we want to fight for. That's not going to work. We have to have a society in which we have transparent, free press, not free press that's not free. It's actually in the service of one particular form of government power. And I don't understand how in the world we can take the media seriously when their headlines are, look at the next thing on the OrlandoSentinel.com. Florida, 360,394 cases, 5,183 deaths. Now, if you put deaths and virus in people's heads 24/7, what do you think that's going to do? When you're always reminding them, you're not telling them, why don't they have a counter for, cancer deaths, heart disease deaths, diabetes deaths, all those things caused by the food pyramid that their Democratic friends will keep going, and so will the Republicans mostly. But why don't they tell you the truth about, they selectively take one thing and they say, ooh, this will help our government authorities that we want back in power. So we're going to drum this up all the time selectively in a way that we can create political advantage for our efforts. They are a PR firm for the Democratic Party and its special interests. That's more important. It's the special interests that feel like this is the brand that can give them power over the people. And so the media plays along as a PR firm for those corporate interests. And it's all over the media. It's in these local media outlets. Every time I turn on the TampaBayTimes.com, it's negative. It's written like a press release for the special interests, the rich folks that stand to benefit from the Democratic brand of power. And obviously, special interests stand to benefit from Republicans. But it's weird how they really special interests really have a control over the media, and they have a very particular favorite that they like to push. The only reason why they pushed Trump is they thought Trump was going to be an easy person for their favorite candidate, Hillary Clinton, to win in 2016. That's the only reason why they celebrated him and gave him all the media attention, as long as he was taking out what they thought at the time were the most serious threats to their power. They pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. But it's just so creepy to live in a media world where 90% of the media is all lockstep into one particular narrative for how government should expand. I don't want government to expand. I don't want to expand the Republican way or the Democrat way. But it's obvious as a neutral observer, in terms of not having a dog in the fight of the political campaigns, that this is a rigged game. The referee is cheating. These are not fair and balanced journalists in any shape or form, and that includes local media too. We have a story about the education situation. We have people who want to delay reopening of public schools. That's a new lawsuit trying to do that. Why? What in the world is going on in this country where we can't have a fair and reasonable conversation? It seems as if there's become one mono-narrative that is so strident and so aggressive at having any diversity of thought that they're using both parties, the establishment of both parties, the vast majority of media, to constantly gaslight the public into succumbing to fear, to succumbing to wanting to be paralyzed by inaction, wanting to be, this is something that I find disturbing too, is that where is the concern for the free market? Where is the concern for the economy? You cannot have what the media is pushing for, which is constant shutdowns, constantly, and expect that the economy will not have long-lasting damage. The mainstream of the Democratic Party seems to be sold out on everything they can to neurotically try to destroy one person, even if it means doing long-lasting damage of the economy for many years to come. You cannot just turn off productivity and then turn it back on like a switch. That's not how human beings act. That is how totalitarians think of economies. How many totalitarians are in the media? How many lovers of tyranny occupy seats of power in the media and bureaucracy today in entertainment? Because it's that kind of mindset, a tyrannical mindset that doesn't see human beings as sacred, that is governing the attitudes of so much of the lying going on in the media. That's something that we have to be all on guard about. I don't care what your political affiliation is. You cannot have a media that acts like what the New York Times did when they covered up for the Holodomor atrocity, where something like 10 million people died because of the Stalinist tactics of the Soviet Union. The media covered that up and awarded Durante, the guy who was lying through his teeth, to cover for the tyranny. They awarded him a Pulitzer, which has not been rescinded to this day. I watched the movie Mr. Jones over the weekend, and it's a great example of the lying sellout, that the media has continued to be, always in the service of destroying what? Whether you like Trump or not, you don't destroy an economy just to win an election. For crying out loud. I mean, it's just so infantile, but at the same time deadly, to want to shut down the economy in perpetuity. And I see all the headlines talk about, well, if we do a mask mandate from the federal level, and if we shut down the economy, then we'll save X amount of lives between now and November. And I think that tells you right there that this media has no pretense for objectivity. What in the world would you report science based on a November election? How is that a measurement? It's only designed to try to gaslight the public into one particular outcome. I have a listener online who says, keep lying, Trump. You're writing your legacy. Well, I don't know if you're hallucinating right now, but this is not Donald Trump speaking. So if your name is 45 Lies, I don't know, if that's your username. If you've hallucinated that this radio host is Donald Trump, you're sadly mistaken, my friend. Maybe the media has really done a number on people's ability to process reality to the point where people are going on to live streams and hallucinating that they're battling Trump. This is a sad state of affairs. You can't even be neutral or independent politically without the cult of Trump, because people who are obsessed with Donald Trump on the left, they worship Donald Trump. They're obsessed with him. And if you're not hating him, like they adore him, the line between hate and adoration is very thin. It's a continuous place psychologically. And for folks who are obsessed, like this listener who commented here, thinking he's hallucinating, thinking that this is Donald Trump talking. I don't know why, but this is an example of what happens when you become so obsessed with someone you can't see straight. There are more important things than who wins an election. There are more important things than who wins an election. But people who are obsessed with worshiping Trump, like the folks on the left, that's all they can think about every day of their life is Donald Trump. Well, you're not going to get that on this program. I'm not playing that game. I want to find out the truth. I want to find out what's right and wrong. And I want to find out when media is lying. I want to know that. A Neighbor's Choice will continue. I'm David Granosky. Visit our website, aneighborschoice.com. That's aneighborschoice.com. Back in just a moment.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Express Pools would like to take this time out to remind all motorists to save the text message for when it's not going to cause an accident. This safe driving tip brought to you by Express Pools, serving the Tampa area with quality service, integrity, and pride backed by over 25 years of experience. Express Pools is our area's leading pool cleaning service. Call Express Pools today at 727-563-4603, 727-563-4603. That's Express Pools.
Coronavirus is threatening the entire world. Could you protect you and your family? Even getting tested can cost you up to $3,200 out of pocket. Would you be able to afford that for you and your family? Well, free Obamacare will cover and protect today. New insurance may cost you nothing. Zero premium plans are available. If you've lost your job, you must call 877-652-0244 or text VIRUS to 919191 or log on to freeobamacare.com. Call us today. We'll get you enrolled, get you qualified coverage to protect you from not only this outbreak, but day in and day out sickness and illness. Our plans cover visits, testing, emergency and urgently needed care, medications, and more. Now more than ever, you need to act now and call now. No long lines, and we can get you coverage today. That's 877-652-0244 or text virus to 919191. That's 877-652-0244.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
800-361-3491. Again, that's 800-361-3491.
Our Neighbor's Choice returns. I'm David Gornowski, your host. And we're live. We're having a great time learning about the news, unpacking the challenges that we face. And I wanted to, leave off here with this story about Kanye West, Drudge Report, always loving to treat human beings as opportunities for exploitation of narratives. He's got a picture of Kanye West crying as his top headline. Kanye cracking. He tries to spin the story. Then he says Kardashians, colon the divorce. So he's always been, this is what Drudge and folks like that do in the media, try and take advantage of people's stories. And what this is referencing to is that yesterday we had the Kanye West did a campaign rally, so to speak, in South Carolina, where he was trying to get petitions to be on the ballot. And apparently, according to the media reports, he didn't make it. He didn't get enough ballot signatures to get on the South Carolina ballot. And in the rally, he did his usual, unique style of doing it. And he got upset and was crying about, talking about how he had wanted to, at one point, abort his child when his girlfriend at the time told him that they were pregnant. And, how terrible that was, that he had that feeling and he felt like God had convicted his heart to stop doing that and to have the child. And he talked about how he wasn't interested in making it criminalized, but that we should find ways to provide alternatives for folks who want to get rid of their child in the womb and have folks who want to give birth, they could have some support financially with institutions to have financial support to give birth to the child and then get it into an adoption program or keep the child if that's something they want to do. And, I just think it's so disgusting what you see in the media and social media. The Democrats, whenever an African-American man like Kanye West speaks about political ideas, but it doesn't meet the dominion of warmongers, servants of banks like Joe Biden, they can't stand it. They feel like they own black voters. That's how the Democratic Party acts. That's how the media acts. And it's amazing the mask falls right off for anybody who's a little slow on the uptake of what they're doing. The mask just falls off when you see the way they paint these narratives online about Kanye. He's mentally breaking down. He's crying because he realizes how much he loves his daughter and how close he was to destroying that daughter's life. What does that say about our society that that's considered crazy? He even acknowledged as such. He said, this might cost me my marriage to speak up about this. People might say I'm crazy. But what does it say about a society that's mad and laughing and trying to do concern trolling about a man who's crying at the thought that he almost vanquished the life of his wonderful daughter before it had the chance to even get going in terms of birth? And the fact that the Democratic Party and the leftist folks feel like they so have control over what black people are allowed to say that they can come out on cue and say Kanye West has mental problems. And isn't it convenient that the media only says that whenever he says something politically that goes against their racist, disgusting way of treating an entire race of very diverse backgrounds and ethnicities. And they want to say that if a man stands up with that kind of cultural power and says, hey, let's love our families. Let's put our kids first. Let's innovate. Let's create wild technologies we can't even imagine. Let's prioritize life. If a man says that, then they're going to paint that black man, like they're doing to Kanye West, as something wrong with him. If he shows love of his daughter, the media on cue and their lemmings on social media are going to say that that man is mentally deranged because he loves his daughter's life. That is not a culture that I'm going to allow on my watch for the future, for our kids and our future grandkids. That's not the kind of culture I'm going to sit by and allow to have discourse where they can try to be so backwards, so deranged, that if a man weeps at the thought of losing his child in the womb, and he weeps at that, and then he also was weeping because his mother, who he lost, saved him himself in the womb from what he said was a desire to abort him. And he's weeping at that love. And in this world, if you're a black man with cultural power and you think differently from a racist like Joe Biden, who did everything he could to bomb people of color overseas in perpetuity and wants to keep us in Afghanistan where we will occupy people of color for a long, long time for the benefit of a few, the Democrats want that man to have power and have all power, and they want to silence and shut down independent thinkers, especially people who they racistly think they can speak for, who they racistly think they can categorize as, you think this way because of your skin color. I find that to be repulsive and pathetic. And I think the rest of the country sees it too. That you would try to the only people who are mentally ill are the people who don't have compassion for people talking about being this close to making a horrible mistake, as Kanye West alluded to, in the attempt to maybe end his unborn daughter's life. Only people who are mentally ill are the people who think that should be scoffed at. That's sick, and it's so pathetic. It's embarrassing that so many folks in America think like this. Someone online says you can't be pro-life and pro-gun. I don't know where that came from, but I can assure you that if you think being anti-gun is to use government guns to criminalize 10 to 15 million AR-15s, for example, in America, then you're not anti-gun. You're actually pro-gun. You just want to use violence the way you want to use it. So don't give me, this is the kind of arguments that you hear so much, not based in reality, not based in common sense, based in bigotry, based in the idea that if a government gun comes up to round up someone's AR-15 or whatever gun it is that you want to make magically disappear, that somehow you're anti-gun. No, you're for gun. You just want police. This is how erratic and insane the Democratic media narrative is. They want to defund the police, But at the same time, they want to use the guns of the police to round up guns that they're afraid of, like AR-15s. How insane is that mainstream discourse in the Democratic echo chamber today? Nothing makes any sense. This is a society that has to honor human life. We cannot make shortcuts to preserving human life in the womb and all throughout life. Folks, we have to fight for the dignity of human life no matter what. No human life is expendable. The New York Times thought that human beings were expendable when they lied about what Stalin was doing to starve and murder 10 million children and people in the Ukraine. Many of them said at the time, well, you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. You gotta have expenditure of life. That's the disgusting place that we're at in our culture, and we have to fight back against it. Not by scapegoating people back, but by protecting every individual being's life. We have to protect the dignity of human life no matter who wants to harm people who have done nothing to them. And a child has done nothing to anybody to deserve having their body and their autonomy of their body destroyed. And Kanye West was brave for saying that. And no cynical, cowardly media narrative will overcome the truth. It is right and good that media culture influencers like Kanye West are speaking out about the beauty and dignity of human life. And it is right and good that we continue to speak out against the media's love for perpetual war. And that really eats up all those Biden voters, I got to tell you, because they love to try to have the self-righteous moral high ground that they're for minorities, and yet they're going to go vote like callous, amoral people for a guy who has the best record in the world of incarcerating every nonviolent person you can imagine. And that eats them up inside. They can't stand that. They can't stand the moral hypocrisy and the kind of mental contortions that you have to do to justify that position and to maintain their hubristic arrogance that they speak for the dignity of minorities. They don't speak for anything. You can't vote for a mass war merchant like Joe Biden, who gets paid to play to run and destroy lives of innocent people all over this globe, and then incarcerate every minority he can find in America his whole career. You don't get to vote for that and then lecture anybody else about being defending of life. You got no leg to stand on when you're that shrunken in your moral faculties. And that's on them, and they know it, and it's going to eat them up inside as they go vote for a warmongering, disgusting fool, and then think that they've got something to say. You have nothing but shame. I'm David Gronowski. We're going to fight for human life, every one of them, because scapegoating and political tribalism has nothing to offer. Godspeed.